I'd like to, hang on, Kim, are you good? Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone out to our City Council meeting for the brand new year of 2025. Today's January 2nd, and our start time is 7:06. And once again, I appreciate the patience for us here on getting started tonight. We have a very short agenda, but at the same time, we do like to follow our customs that we have established here as a governing body, and so we like to start every meeting with a prayer and a pledge, and we have each council member take a turn for the month. And tonight it is Council Member Bloxham's time, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to lead us in a word of prayer, and then we'll stand and repeat the pledge. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for our many blessings and the chance to have a new year, and we're grateful to be met together and discuss the affairs of the city, and we ask the Spirit to be with us to help us to entertain good dialogue and try to make the best decisions for those with whom we represent. We're grateful for all of the workers in the city and all those people who help city services move forward. We're grateful for the freedoms we enjoy, and we ask you to please bless our nation and our city and our state. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, if you want to stand and repeat the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilman Bloxham. Council, I'm going to move on now to our municipal events, being that we have no minutes to take care of. So if anybody has anything they'd like to share at this time, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Recreation Department has put together a fun event, a new event in the city, to my knowledge, a jigsaw puzzle tournament. A week from tomorrow night, it'll be held at Legacy Junior High Gymnasium. You can put together a group of 4 of your favorite jigsaw puzzle enthusiasts, and you will have 2 hours to put together a 500-piece puzzle. And the prizes for the winners, you can go to laytoncity.org in the Parks and Recreation Department under registrations to sign up, $20 per team.
That's good. That's a fun one, especially this time of year. Good. Okay. Anyone else? Is there any other announcements? If not, I'll go ahead and proceed. I know it's, everybody's enjoyed the holidays and been able to hopefully spend good time with their family and friends. And so that's what the new year's about, is a new start. So this time, I'm going to go ahead and go on down to item number 6, which is our public hearing. So with that, oh, excuse me. Good, thank you for the catch. I need to start off with,
I apologize. I was looking for my announcement for CTC. May I make that?
Sure. Let's go back to that.
So on Thursday, January 9th, there will be a Everyday Strong class called Let's Build Resilience Through Relationships. It's a new approach to anxiety and depression, and our Communities That Care is a program for families. It is to help with child prevention of drug use, substance abuse, alcohol, and suicide. And so we have this Everyday Strong class that's being offered on Thursday, January 9th from 5 to 6:30. It'll be at the Weber State Davis campus. Right here off of 193, 2750 North University Park Boulevard. And you can go to the dbhutah.org website to sign up. It is free for all attendees. And I wanted to make that announcement, so apologize for being late.
No, I'm glad you looked that up, because that's a good one. And certainly we want our Communities That Care program to be well received and know that truly this governing body is concerned about our residents and want to offer anything we can for them. So thank you. Okay. I am now going to actually open it up for our citizens' comments. So anyone who is here and would like to make a comment to this governing body that you're welcome to, unless it's pertaining to the public hearing. If it's pertaining to our public hearing, then it will allow you time to go ahead and speak on that particular topic. But in the meantime, it's wide open, and all I ask is that you state your name and what city you're from, and please understand that this body will listen, but they will not respond, but certainly we will take all the information and make sure we get back to you regarding your concerns or suggestions. So with that, I'll turn the time over to you.
Do you still need address?
No.
Just city? Sean Schuler, I live in Layton. I want to start, I don't know how many of you were on council when it got passed, and I hate that the events that had to happen for it to happen, but I just want to express absolute appreciation for the change in the fireworks policy. I live in East Layton. I live by Andy Adams Park. And until this year, I know it's New Year's, so it's a little bit less than normal. Several of my neighbors are really, really hopeful for this next summer that we don't live in Iraq or Afghanistan again, because every year it has ruined. When I was a kid, I loved fireworks like everyone. My adult life living in Layton last 10 years or so, it's just terrible. It's too much. It was a designated fireworks zone, and I get the reasons for it and all of that. It just was out of control. Those events like happened this past summer with the professional, non-professional fireworks displays that would just go, it just never ended. So we were pleasantly surprised to see that policy changed. It was pretty quiet this year. It seemed like most people abided by it for New Year's, and I get everybody is wanting to go do it, but it was so much less this next year. Please, I hate being that guy. I hate feeling like that old fart I grew up with when I was a kid that was just always get off my lawn and all that. I really do hope there's some enforcement. Because it just has been too much, and we're really, really hopeful that this is way better. So I appreciate that it was taken seriously. Again, I hate that it had to kind of get the push that it did, but I'm glad that it's going the direction it is. You may not hear that from others, but I'll say it, so thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay, next.
Michael Christensen, Layton, Utah. I had a chance to watch the working meeting from 2 weeks ago where Ivory Holdings came in and talked about their affordable housing plan. And I was excited to hear them come in and see what they were talking about. I appreciated Councilor Smith-Edmondson's note that $400,000 homes aren't starter homes. Okay, but I was shocked and kind of concerned that they didn't address the real elephant in the room. All the products and projects they're talking about putting 18 to 2,200 square foot houses on 10,000 R110 PRUD lots and building amenities and organic farms and other things around it. And that misses the point. The problem with housing costs in Utah is the cost of the soil. It's the cost of the dirt. We're not going to solve the housing problem in Layton by putting 2,200 square foot homes on 10 and 12,000 foot lots. The problem is that doesn't work. Now, I'm all for not wanting to have townhomes and minimizing the number of apartment buildings and things, but we've got to get to the point where we're building 2,200 square foot lot homes on 6,000 square foot lots, 5,000 square foot lots, because it's the soil lack, it's the dirt that we're running out of that is the problem, and we're not going to solve this any other way. We've got to find a way to make acceptable housing on smaller parcels with smaller setbacks, move the houses closer to the front so the backyards can be bigger for the kids to go play in. We've got to start doing things like that. We've got to be able to make larger homes happen on smaller parcels, or we're never going to get there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else? Okay, are you able to come up to the mic? No, we do not have a portable, but this definitely begs an idea and surfaces the opportunity. So I think perhaps that's our New Year goal. As a council, we'll go ahead and make that available.
I've been here for 13 years now. It's the first time I've ever come to a city council meeting. I'm glad to see a member of the bar here. I'm a dropout member of the bar. But
Do you mind stating your name?
my name is Matthew Hilton, Hilton. I live on Fieldstone Way in Layton. I wanted to make a brief presentation and read in the form of a question, and that is, I had the chance to participate in some misdemeanor cases a year ago. And sometimes you have misdemeanor representation done when you've got a gracious prosecutor who's not going to go for the jugular. We have other times where, at least in what I was finding, that there was no escape route involved for someone who simply made a mistake. And what I wanted to address tonight is there's a need to clarify when we have court-appointed counsel, what is the nature of the counsel? Number two, if you're not representing the individual, what does it mean to have standby counsel? Standby counsel is where you're educating the defendant as he goes along, or she goes along. And there's a question as to whether or not you're actually representing that person or not. However, in the case I was involved in, there was a contractual demand in the city's contracts with appointed counsel that said you cannot use this contract for prosecutorial misconduct. And so what that puts a defendant facing is, if they're going to accept counsel, they've got to understand that if there's a malfeasance on the part of the prosecutor, they will have no representation. Whether or not they're involved as a individual who is simply being assisted with the finances to do the case, or they're being assisted by this representation, that you're simply going to be standby counsel and provide assistance when they have a hard problem. In conclusion, I just wanted to suggest.
Sorry, we typically give a 3-minute, a 3-minute opportunity for folks to speak, but go ahead and make your conclusion statement for us, and then.
The conclusion is that none of this conflict of interest was disclosed when the trial began or when the counsel was appointed. And in one case, the counsel even helped him write curative jury instructions, or did good things for him. But when it got down to this conflict of interest, they wouldn't take any action, and they wouldn't explain why they wouldn't take any action. So I was wondering, I don't want to dump on Mr. Block, but if there could be an interim committee appointed to help look up the city ordinances, actual contracts, and possibly even do a survey of contracts for cities in Davis County and find out what is going on. When I saw how much money they were getting paid, I was aghast that you could even hire attorneys for the amount of money we were paying them.
Okay.
So I just wanted to offer that as a suggestion.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
That for you.
Did I scare you? I did not expect that.
Turn it around.
Okay, is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to address us? If so, we do have the mic on the other side if you want to. Okay, seeing that there's no other comments on our citizens' comment portion, then I'm going to go ahead and move down to item number 6, which is our public hearing portion of our meeting. And what we'll do here is we'll have Mr. Longcrow present the information to us, and then I'll ask the council to open it up for public comments.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have before you Resolution 2501, which is an interlocal participation agreement with UDOT and the city to create a transportation reinvestment zone at the intersection of approximately the intersection of Highway 89 and Gordon Avenue. I'm going to give a little background on the processes that have taken place up to this point, so you understand those before I move into items in the agreement. So in 2018, the state legislature passed Senate Bill 136, which provided the opportunity to create a transportation reinvestment zone. At that time, it was not defined, and so there were further actions in the following years. In 2019, the legislature passed, well, they amended 11-13-227, which outlined the process for a public agency to work with a state agency and create a TRZ. In 2023, the rules were created from the state, which provided guidelines and outlined to the Department of Transportation how they are able to participate in a TRZ with a public agency such as Layton City. As far as conversations that have taken place over the years, city staff began conversations with UDOT in 2020 regarding some specific land that was purchased for the widening project of Highway 89, and that is located at the intersection of Gordon Avenue and Highway 89. In 2021, we had further discussions regarding the potential to master plan this property to ensure on our behalf a good development. At least that was our purpose and hope. In 2022, city staff applied for a grant and was awarded a grant through the Wasatch Front Regional Council to master plan the property, which resulted in the Gordon Avenue Highway 89 Town Center Master Plan adopted by this body on March 21st of this past year. The property in question is shown in orange, but the 40.5 acres specifically is shown with the hash marks through it. This process was lengthy. There was a lengthy public process. I know there were a lot of conversations on the side also with the public and the neighbors to this property over the year and 1 month process. There was the Planning Commission recommended approval. The City Council adopted the plan again in March of this past year, which resulted in this plan, which was again adopted. This plan outlines certain land uses and densities specific to this property. After the highway was completed, the reconstruction project was completed in June of 2023. There were further conversations, and in this past fall of 2024, UDOT indicated they were ready to begin conversations regarding a TRZ, which had been previously discussed. Staff drafted an agreement, which was passed to UDOT and the Attorney General's office, and after some negotiation in December 10th of this past year, a final draft agreement was negotiated between these entities. And on December 13th, this was presented to the Utah Transportation Commission Board, who approved and authorized UDOT staff to move forward with this interlocal agreement with Layton City and to implement the agreement and the TRZ. This is part of the process, and just like this public hearing, this is also part of the process to create a TRZ. So the highlights in the agreement I've written here, and then there's a couple of more, or at least one more that we discussed in the work meeting that I'll bring up. But this agreement allows for the collection of tax increment for property tax and sales tax for the purpose of funding certain transportation projects. The money that is collected is deposited into a TRZ fund according to the agreement, and this fund is managed by a TRZ board, which is created per statute, and also the regulations and management of that board is determined by the board itself. All proposed projects that will be brought through the board, who will approve the projects and the funding, may be reimbursed by the TRZ fund after the fact. So there's two options. The city can either wait for the tax increment to accumulate, which it could in reality take at least 15 years for the two projects we've identified, or the city may fund the projects and they can be reimbursed through the TRZ over time. The one item that we discussed in the work session is each of these projects will be approved, may be approved through a separate agreement that will be brought by the entity that's proposing the project to the board. And the great part about this agreement is UDOT has agreed to the Section 3B, which requires all proposed projects to comply with adopted planning documents, and this includes the master plan that was approved. The TRZ board is comprised of 3 members according to the current state statute. One representative is from UDOT Region 1, one representative is from Layton City, and one representative has a general knowledge of finance and audit procedures, and that will be determined by the 2 other entities. Each board member will have 1 vote. And UDOT and the city may have a legal representative to provide legal advice. City staff, as mentioned here, will provide staff support to the TRZ board. The area in orange is the TRZ plan area, and this agreement will apply to that entire area. It's about a little over 50 acres. And that's the end of the presentation. City staff recommends that the council consider approving 2501 as submitted. I am open to any questions.
Okay, council, do you have any additional questions? I know we discussed it at length in our work meeting, but this is the public hearing, and before we open it up for the public, if you have any additional questions, you're welcome to ask at this time.
Can you go back 1 slide to the picture, the image? I must have missed it in the other. What's the distinction between the hashed area and the non-hashed area?
The 40.5 acres is specific to the town center master plan that was adopted. The other land is not included in that master plan, but all of the land in orange is currently owned by UDOT.
So it has potential to have implication, or, we could imply tax money to transportation projects outside of the town center area.
Correct.
That's why the other areas.
Correct. For instance, UDOT has indicated a potential need for a light on the east side of Gordon Avenue, on the east side of Highway 89, and that it could be used for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
For the purpose of the public meeting, we had a lot of discussion in the work meeting about the tax revenues and the property, or the sales tax and property tax revenues, and how they're not uber significant. But could you explain to the public the reason or the difference between why we would be interested in something like this, even though the tax revenues are not necessarily that great?
Really, the biggest benefit for this agreement is the acknowledgement by UDOT to follow the master plan that was approved. The funding can help with 2 transportation projects we've identified. This allows us to use sales tax and property tax to specifically help fund those transportation projects. And this was created to actually help UDOT enhance their system or their new facilities. As was mentioned in the work meeting, they spent a lot of money on this highway project, this interchange as well, and they hope to ensure that there's not a development that would make this intersection fail right off the bat. And so there's those two reasons that it's a good idea to participate with UDOT in this agreement.
I just wanted to add, and I know the rest of the council, we've spoke on this over time as well as tonight, but the opportunity to be able to have a large input in what happens in this area from the standpoint of the city, I think far outweighs, the participation we have to take with regard to the tax revenues, because this just allows the voice of the residents that we've already received and accepted through all of the processes with that Gordon Town Center to be upheld. And so I just, kudos to staff and you all for what you've done to try and help make sure that the vision for the city that the residents as well as the council has is something that we can make good on. So thank you for your work.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just, I guess, as a point of information for anyone, I know this has been a situation that's had a lot of discussion. We had a lot of public hearing here before when we had the master plan discussed. And typically we have a parcel property owned by UDOT. They sell it at an auction, and then some developer buys it, and then they can do whatever they want with it so long as it's within the zoning, and they come and ask us for a rezone or whatever they want to do. But in those situations, though, we get 100% of the tax revenue. This TRZ, we're splitting that 50% to us, 50% to UDOT. And so one of the questions that we discussed in the work meeting was, why would that be a good thing for the city, considering that, we now we're losing out on 50% of the tax revenue going to an outside agency, even if it is a state agency. And the concept behind this TRZ, and you can just maybe reemphasize this, Lon, is that the funds that UDOT would collect as part of the tax, their 50%, must be spent in this 40.5 acre area, correct?
Correct, or the 51 acre.
So it's not as if they're going to take tax increment or tax funding from sales tax and property tax generated in this area and then go put it in Sandy. It has to stay right here. And I think that's an important thing for the residents to know, that we treat and value. We want to make sure that any tax revenue that's coming into the city stays in the city. And so this, even under this situation with the TRZ, it's the first one of its kind in the state. The tax revenue generated in this, even if it's under a different organization than it usually is, will still stay within the city. So thanks, Lon.
Very good. Okay, anything else?
Just one question, Madam Mayor, thank you. We talked in the work meeting about Layton City being in charge of the projects in the area and then being reimbursed. We come up with funding, do the project, we're reimbursed. You just mentioned that UDOT wanted to maybe put a light east of 89. That would be their prerogative. That would be one of their projects. Would they also do it and then be reimbursed, or they're going to use us as that to go through our procedure and our operations to do that?
If it's a project recommended by them, actually they would have to fund the project, and it would go through their procedures to provide the funding either upfront or request that tax increment in the future. And the funding would have to be in place, and that's something I forgot to mention. The funding by this agreement is required to be in place in one way or the other. It has to be in place before the project can be approved.
Okay, good questions. Okay, go ahead. That's the purpose of this meeting.
So this is the first one in the state. This would be the first one in the state. And, talking more about if these projects happen in the next 20 years, this is set to expire in 2046. If UDOT puts that light in 2042 and they're out a lot of money, is there is there a catalyst in the statute to extend it? I know RDAs and EDAs get extended quite often. Is that an option in 2046?
Currently, it is. The statute doesn't regulate that. The term was determined by both parties based on our projected income from the tax increment, but it does allow you to create a whole new agreement in 20 years if we wish.
Okay. Good. All right, I'm going to bring it back to the council and ask you for a motion to open our public hearing and allow our citizens to have their input.
I move that we open the public hearing to discuss Resolution 25-01.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the time is now yours. If anyone wishes to speak on our interlocal participation agreement with on Highway 89 and UDOT, then you're welcome to step up to the mic. Again, state your name, what city, and give us your opinion.
So one way, or can we get some dialogue, short answers, or is it just public comment?
No, you're welcome to make a public comment, and certainly we'll call upon the staff members to help us here.
Sean Schuler from Layton. First and foremost, I'm all for it. I think planning ahead and the master planning has been really good. But I do have some concerns, and I've only in the last couple of days learned about this and tried to do a little background. The packet didn't come out last week when I first saw it, so I didn't see that till today. I was working, trying to cheating a little bit, but I saw references to public infrastructure. It didn't necessarily, it kept saying transportation projects, and clearly UDOT is, UDOT would say, and I know because I work for them a lot, but we do transportation projects. We're in the transportation business, but I kept seeing references to public infrastructure, and I just want to be sure that someone has thought ahead. Not that developers would ever try to do anything a little out there, but that this doesn't suddenly become how they're going to fund, assuming UDOT hires a developer, someone to develop this, that now suddenly that fund's not being used to pay for curb, gutter, and sidewalk, certain things that would be part of a development anyway, but could be considered a public portion of a development, that this isn't suddenly a way of funding that instead of them having to front the money the normal way. Excuse me, that was the first kind of thing that concerned me a little bit. And I don't know if you know, I assume UDOT, has there been some discussion, would they hire a developer? Would they try to be a developer? Or is it TBD? Does it convey with the property? I assume this zone gets, voted on by council and it conveys with the land, or it overlays the land. Is it, if it changes hands, they sell it to a developer to develop, it keeps going? Is that how that works? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know. Lon, Alex, I see you grabbed your mic. Whichever one wants to address it, go ahead.
That's a great question, and one we've actually thought about extensively in our discussions with UDOT and putting this together. So the way the agreement is structured and the commitment both from UDOT and from the city is that these funds will not be used. The definition of public that we're using is not an improvement that's used by the public, but it's owned and installed by the government entity. And so any improvement, though it eventually may become public, that's originally the obligation of the developer as part of the construction of the site and development of the site, is on the developer.
Okay.
So if there's a light required early on, you have to bring something up to standard to meet the codes, either the state of or the city. That's the developer's responsibility when they develop the property. If 15 years down the road it needs to be reconfigured because of the demand, the developer's long gone, then it can be, this public money can be used, but in no way will this fund be used to supplant the developer responsibility.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I didn't say
Yeah,
that
it does, and
wrong.
I appreciate that, because the light, for example, at I think it was 1650 West or whatever, I can't remember what we ended up naming that street, but in Gordon, the one on the west side, if there needs to be a light there at some point, like you say, 15 years down the road, it's a much easier sell if you have a way to pay for it than, well, we'd love a light, but we don't have we don't have money for a light yet. Okay. The last question I have is, there was the mention of the board, and it mentioned someone from Layton city, does that mean from the city or from the community at large, and someone designated by the council, has that been kind of defined yet?
Yeah, I can't speak totally for the mayor and the council, but the understanding from the discussions is that likely those two of the three representatives at least one would be a city employee, probably somebody in our engineering or public works department that has an understanding of infrastructure and manages that, and the same thing with UDOT. And then the third person is somebody that has experience and background in finance or auditing. Again, I would think it would probably be somebody tied with one of the entities who are familiar with the processes. So
Okay.
I don't think it would be an outside person.
Never hurts to ask.
Pardon?
Never hurts to ask.
Yeah. But
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, is there anyone else has any questions? Okay, very good. Seeing that there's no more, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the council to close the public hearing and take action on Resolution 25-01.
Can I ask a question first?
Absolutely.
So just for clarity, and that was a very good question from Sean, and I appreciate that, but to be clear, we're in the preliminary stages of this agreement, right? So this is just saying that the bylaws and that will govern this entity, this TRZ, still needs to be written, correct? So those questions will be answered in the future. Okay, great. Right. Yeah.
Long,
Okay,
did you have a
thank
comment on that?
If I may, actually, state statute and this agreement specifically do not allow this fund to be used for a private developer or private development.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Okay, any other questions, council, before I acknowledge a motion here?
With that, Mayor, I'd make a motion that we adopt Resolution 25-1
And close the public hearing?
and close the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we adopt Resolution 25-01. I'll do a roll call vote on this, so I'll start down here with Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith Edmondson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Okay, there you have it. It's unanimous. That is the last item on our agenda, unless anybody has any unfinished business they'd like to address. If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So be it.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone attending tonight, and I hope you can start your new year off and have some great resolutions going forward. So thank you again.